Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so today we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating. We are looking at a 2026 nonstop Christian gospel playlist. But, and here's the twist, we aren't just putting this on as background music. We're actually analyzing the text of these songs as a meticulously crafted emotional narrative. When you really step back and look at the sheer volume of these lyrics, you realize pretty quickly that this isn't just noise. It's a profound emotional architecture, totally designed to take the listener on a very specific psychological journey. So here's our roadmap for deconstructing all of this. First up, deconstructing the worship playlist. Then attributes of the divine, the power in a name, the core gospel narrative, finding peace in the storm, and we'll wrap up with the posture of surrender. Let's jump right into Section 1, Attributes of the Divine, focusing on the majestic nature of God. Right out of the gate, you have to notice the incredibly vivid, contrasting titles these songs use to describe the divine. We've got the Lion and the Lamb, which, holds this fierce, unstoppable power right next to gentle sacrifice in the exact same breath. Then we hear titles like Light of the World, Cornerstone, and Tower of Refuge. These descriptors build a really compelling picture of absolute, unshakable power, the Lord Most High, but mixed with this intimate, protective comfort. The language is so carefully chosen to remind the listener that God is incredibly vast, yet deeply personal. And what really stood out in the source material is exactly how that goodness of God is framed. It's not presented as some abstract, untouchable theological concept. It's actually framed as a deeply personal, lifelong friendship. The lyrics explicitly say things like, "I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend." It takes that majestic nature of the divine and roots it right down into the everyday waking moments of the listener's life. It builds an immediate, powerful emotional bond. Moving on to Section 2, the power in a name, looking at the intense lyrical focus on Jesus. Just consider for a second the immense psychological weight carried by a name. If you look at the structure of these songs, they constantly pit intense human struggles, things like addiction, suffocating darkness, and fear, against a single word. It sets up this fascinating theme that runs through the entire collection, the idea that a spoken name can literally shift reality. So we really have to ask, how exactly do these lyrics use that single name to actually combat human anxiety? Well, the crucial takeaway here is that the name itself is treated as an active, living agent of healing against the darkness. The lyrics don't say, "I will think about" or "I will hope for." They say, "I speak." It's an active vocal weapon against dark addictions, depression, and anxiety. The name is framed as the ultimate authority, actively breaking strongholds and bringing real freedom. That brings us to Section 3, the core gospel narrative, where we trace the timeline of faith. It is honestly brilliant how the music builds a literal, historical timeline of the Christ narrative. Pulling directly from the incredibly dense lyrics of the song In Christ Alone, you can watch this clear progression. It starts with a helpless babe, moves to the heavy sacrifice on that cross, the burial in the ground, and ultimately peaks the moment he stands in victory. In just a handful of lines, the listener is walked through the entire foundation of the faith, totally reinforcing their grounding in this historical timeline. And this narrative arc brilliantly illustrates the constant lyrical tension between the hopeless human condition and ultimate salvation. We start at the human baseline, right? Lost, blind, running out of time. But then, boom, comes the transformation. The divine action hits, pulling the soul from the dark into glorious light, as we hear in Glorious Day. The playlist uses this stark night and day contrast to massively heighten the emotional relief of salvation. All right, let's pivot to Section 4, Finding Peace in the Storm, addressing the messy reality of the human condition. This specific lyric functions as the ultimate anthem for human brokenness. When a listener feels totally trapped, this text jumps in to remind them that divine intervention is often happening entirely behind the scenes. From a psychological standpoint, it's incredibly comforting, isn't it? Being told that even if you literally cannot see the path forward, a path is actively being built for you in secret. Notice the recurring motif of the storm here too. The lyrics aren't giving you some fake promise that the oceans won't rise or that the thunder won't roar. The profound psychological reassurance is that believers aren't promised a smooth life without storms, but rather elevation above them. The promise is literally to soar with you above the storm and to be still, despite the absolute chaos swirling around you. To back that up, the source material weaves in these incredibly powerful spoken word assurances, quoting texts like Isaiah chapter 43. Consider these promises. Deep waters will not overwhelm you. Flames of oppression will not consume you. And God never sleeps nor slumbers.
Think about how these assurances connect to that continuous theme of finding rest. When human strength inevitably fails, the playlist is right there reassuring the listener that the divine is tirelessly working on their behalf. Which naturally leads us to our final stop, Section 5, the posture of surrender, focusing on gratitude and offering. It's amazing how surrender paradoxically leads to incredible empowerment here. Take these famous dualities from the song Give Thanks. Through the lens of this playlist, acknowledging your weakness and poverty before God is exactly what unlocks divine strength and richness. It's a complete and total inversion of how the world usually defines power and wealth. The lyrics actually provide a literal, step-by-step procedure for a worshiper seeking to give everything back to the divine. Based on the song Lord, I Offer My Life, step 1 is to surrender the past and the unseen future, wishes and dreams that are yet to come true. Step 2 is the physical and emotional action of surrender. My heart and my hands are lifted to you. And step 3 is the ultimate goal, to become a pleasing sacrifice. It is a complete roadmap for total life dedication. And we reach the emotional climax of the entire playlist right here. It focuses on the beautiful metaphor of the thirsty soul and the hungry heart, finally finding ultimate fulfillment. Think about the journey we just went on. After the majestic attributes, the historical timeline of salvation, and the rescue from the brutal storms of life, the listeners brought to a table. It's a place of feasting, of resting, and of deep, profound spiritual satisfaction. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question to really reflect on. We've seen how this playlist meticulously constructs an emotional architecture, moving from majesty through storms all the way to a table of rest. When the undeniable storms of your own life hit, what is your hungry heart truly seeking? Is it just temporary shelter, or is it this kind of profound foundational peace? Thank you so much for exploring the deeper layers of this text with me. Until next time, keep looking closer and keep asking great questions.